Welcome back to my story time. Dear My Brother, Sister, Part 2. And so, yeah, guys, it's getting heavy. And so, sometime later, not much later, and at that time I was still working for the high end grocery store, my brother comes back. I'm still with the same ex, trying to work on my never ending exit because that job was just not it, not providing me the stability and the pay to get myself out of that situation. So it must have been months and months later, he actually returns to Orlando and was going to stay with a girlfriend of his by the name of Piggy. She's also a Scorpio. But somehow, some way that didn't work out, and he reached out to me and didn't know what to do, had nowhere to go. Again, like some of his fame and notoriety had run out, and as back in the day he'd be able to call up a girlfriend who'd pull right up. It just wasn't like that anymore, and so he literally had nowhere to go. I invite him back, and at this time in that situation, for me, if it was bad before, it was even worse now. Okay. And so I, against everything in me, go back to this person, meaning the ex I was still living with, and ask him to make that exception. Like, my brother really has nowhere to go. I think it was his birthday weekend at that, and so I talked him into that. He even stayed in the room. I laid on the couch. And at some point, we went shopping. Forever 21, still have the pictures. And I bought him an outfit. We caught the bus back, and it was a supposed moment we had where he was like, "Well, girl, with all the glitz and glam, and I know I've lived a fabulous life. Like, it's something real humbling about this experience, and I feel like I'm experiencing Orlando, and I'm able to enjoy my birthday because of you, girl. Thank you, and all of this." And so we dress up, we go out, we have the time of our lives. That's something that was never in question. Like, when it came to the nightlife, like, just always such a great time, although it was at the gay club. That was one of the ways in which, in my childhood, that I bonded with my brother. He taught me how to dance, okay? Mind you, he taught me a lot about my womanhood. So while we're on this story time, it's nothing wrong to bring balance into the equation. And so that was the way me, my brother, and my sister, like, always bonded was through the music. And so lo and behold, during the stay, there was a time I got to the house. I was leaving him at the place. It was a few days that he was going to stay by himself. And I came in and everything was in a disarray. Food was sitting out. Like, he was just living like he didn't give a fuck. Like, it was his place. And, I'm on my last leg with this person. And I'm also talking to him about a lot of things I'm dealing with at work. And I'm skinny as fuck. Like, I'm not able to eat right. I'm trying. It was like, like, trying to speak between the lines type of thing. Like, brother, I'm in serious trouble here, but I'm trying to be here for you at the same time and be a host. And so, yeah, that the house is in a disarray. And you have to forgive me because your mind go in snippets sometimes, and when you remove yourself from a situation that was so painful, you have to actually undig that shit to really even recollect it. So I'm just going to talk about it in the order that I remember it. But bear with me. Okay, and so we went out. I know one spot was to a popular spot I always went out to. It was actually a spot, one of the last places I took my mother to, one of my last memories with her before she passed. I brought him to that spot, and he was showing out, and somehow we got stranded up there. You know, either which way we were able to make it home at some point. But all I can remember about that night was feeling like attacked by my brother and like competed against heavily. Like his life depended on it. We know it was his birthday or whatever weekend. I'm not sure whether this night was his birthday in particular, but like his life depended on it. He had to be the center of attention. And he was trying to talk to guys that were talking to me and just really, I don't know if he was drunk. I don't, you know. But yeah, then thereafter, I also recall a time before him leaving. I also recall a time that we went out to a gay club. His friend pulled up. His friend name was Michael Vick. He was a Capricorn. And I was venting to him about some of the things I was dealing with on the job and the fact that these were women and that struggle for me with women and them ganging up on me and sabotaging me. And he said, well, I don't think it'll always be like that. I think one day that women will just, I might have talked about this before. Women will discover who you were all the while, and you will be a champion of women. You'll be celebrated by women. You should never give up that hope. And I clearly recall at that moment feeling like, wow, why has my brother never said something like that to me? Because during all of what I was talking to him about, I noticed all of the distress, the relationship shit, the job shit, you know, all of it's playing out right in front of his eyes. The stress, the drear, like the cloud, the dark cloud over my life at that time. Why he never had anything really to say back and any advice. And what I came to realize is that it was sadistic fuel and that maybe he relished my sorrow and suffering because in his childhood, that was all he saw. I think for a lot of what our mother was guilty of, he grouped us with her and associated us with her actions, you know, and so some of my suffering could be indicative of hers, even though she was gone by this time. Any conversations I would try to bring up about her in terms of closure and making sense of our childhood and things that happened, and the outcome up until now was, just closed off and shunned by him. Like he wanted to make sure I didn't get that healing, and mentioned something about having had a dream where he got closure and so he's good, you know, and ended up leaving. But that before he did, guys, let me mention, I'm glad I just remembered this part, that I wasn't sleeping in that bed that he was sleeping in. I had been sleeping on the couch. I just was removed from the house, even just being in the rooms. But he slept in that bed and woke up the next morning with just hives and bumps. And I'm trying to remember what that shit was called. Because he went and got it looked at, and there was a name for it. And when I looked that up, and I figured that out, I'm going to post it in the description box. And it was something about the bed that he was sleeping in that was my boyfriend's bed. Anyway, we weren't sleeping together anymore. I wasn't sleeping in the bed. I was transitioning. And so I don't know whether that was something my brother brought into the equation or my ex had some things going on with his health. And I guess that would be another story time. But then it wouldn't come from me because I shortly thereafter left. But that he claimed, he felt like it was something about sleeping in that bed that gave him hives the next morning, guys. And that was a bed no one was sleeping in but my ex. Okay. And so, yeah, by the time he left, I realized in no time flat that he had stolen a lot of things, really meaningful things to me that I actually shared with him as being meaningful things to me, however minute or material that they were. It was principality to what we had established. And so what I was left with was a feeling that your brother, that anger, that Whatever it is he had for your mother is alive and well. When he sees you, he sees her. And when you're at your weakest and lowest point, under the greatest attack and threat of your life, your livelihood, your future, you're uncertain, and you share your vulnerability, this is your blood relative, and they exploit you and your kindness, leave you with a situation that's worse off because you've extended yourself beyond your ability. This is not my house. And I'm once again going out on a limb for you, bro. And you robbed me. And everyone thinks I should just forgive and move on. But for me, there is principality. And there was a message sent very clear through the action and the timing of the action that, sister, at any time you let your guard down with me, I'm going to exploit you continuously. This is just who I am. This is what's in me. And it will never change. So at that point, I had his funeral, spiritually, and finally let go, Deep down somewhere, he's still there. Bits and pieces of him. I still love him. But until he can come to terms with his own treacheries and deceit and lies, we will never have a relationship again. And I'm completely comfortable loving him from a distance.